The dawn of the new year, often heralded as a beacon of new beginnings, instead delivered a jarring shock to my doorstep. Amidst the serene silence of my snug abode, the sudden ring of the doorbell shattered the calm. Expecting perhaps a neighbor or a delivery, I casually swung the door open, only to be confronted with a sight that sent my heart plummeting. My sister Elizabeth and my ex-husband Jack standing there. Elizabeth, with her irritatingly self-satisfied grin, seemed almost triumphant beside Jack. The sight of him was like tearing open a scar long thought healed. He carried an air of unearned remorse, his arrogance thinly veiled. It had been 4 long years since our paths had last crossed, and yet here they were, appearing as if no time had passed, as if no bridges had been burned. "Why are you here?" I managed to utter, my voice quaking with disbelief. Elizabeth's laugh, sharp and mocking, filled the air. "Oh, look at that, Jack. She's speechless. What's the matter, Linda? Not thrilled to see your darling sister and your devoted ex-husband?" Jack, leaning nonchalantly against the doorframe, scanned the room with a feigned interest. "Yeah, Linda, we just thought we'd drop by, wanted to see how you've been managing without us." My hands balled into fists at my sides, the urge to slam the door in their faces overwhelming. "This isn't your place anymore, Jack and Elizabeth. You shouldn't be here either," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. They merely smirked, unaffected by my feeble defiance. Then, Jack delivered a blow that hit like a physical strike. "You know, Linda, I regret every moment spent with you. What a waste of my best years." Elizabeth chimed in, her faux sympathy dripping with venom. "Poor Linda always coming up short, even in marriage." Their cruel words stung, cutting deep. But before I could muster a response, another voice intervened. "Who's there, Linda?" It was my father, Walter, arriving earlier than expected. Elizabeth and Jack's expressions flickered with surprise at his sudden appearance. As their smirks faded and they shifted uneasily on their feet, I breathed a sigh of relief. "Dad, you're home early," I remarked, the tension in my voice lightening a bit. Dad's eyes narrowed as he assessed the scene before him, his gaze sharp and penetrating. "Elizabeth, Jack, what brings you here?" he asked, his voice stern, stripping them of their earlier bravado. There was a moment of heavy silence before Elizabeth attempted an explanation. "We just wanted to wish Linda a happy new year." Dad's skepticism was palpable. "Really? After all this time you suddenly decide to remember family on New Year's?" His tone was icy, betraying his underlying anger and disappointment. Jack, attempting to salvage their facade, chimed in. "We also have some news, but perhaps now isn't the right time." I knew there was more to their visit than empty holiday pleasantries. Their sudden appearance, the smirks, the thinly veiled insults, it was all part of a familiar pattern of deceit and manipulation. However, I wasn't the same person they had left behind. As they made an awkward exit, promising to return another time, I closed the door behind them, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. Their presence foretold trouble, and this time I needed to be prepared. Once Elizabeth and Jack were gone, the house returned to an eerie silence. Dad sat across from me, his expression lined with concern. "Linda, what was that about? Why are they back?" he asked. I sighed, the weight of past conflicts pressing down on me. "I'm not sure, Dad, but with Elizabeth and Jack, there's always an ulterior motive." Dad nodded grimly, his memories of their past actions still vivid. "I remember how things ended, how they hurt you. You owe them nothing, Linda." His support was comforting, yet there was a layer to the saga he hadn't fully grasped. The depth of Elizabeth's manipulation, a toxicity that dated back to our childhood, a time that should have been carefree but was instead overshadowed by her selfishness. "Dad, remember my 10th birthday? The porcelain doll Grandma gave me?" I asked, my voice tinged with sadness. His expression softened. "Of course you cherished that doll." I nodded. The memory was vivid and painful. Elizabeth broke it on purpose and then blamed it on me. She tearfully told Mom that it was an accident, but that I had caused it. Dad's expression shifted to one of surprise. I never knew that. Your mother and I always thought it was just an accident. I nodded, feeling the sting of those old wounds. That was just the beginning, I confided. Elizabeth always played the innocent one, and somehow I was always the one who got blamed. She knew exactly how to manipulate everyone around her. I could see the dawning of regret in Dad's eyes, a realization of what he had missed all these years. "I'm sorry, Linda. I should have seen through her acts," he said, his voice laden with remorse. "It's not your fault, Dad," I reassured him, taking a deep breath to steady myself. "We were all deceived by Elizabeth." I paused, the memories bitter. Even with Jack, she played us both. They truly deserve each other. Dad reached out, his hand clasping mine in a gesture of comfort. "What matters now is that you're free from their drama. Don't let them drag you back into it." I managed a weak smile, reassured by his words. Talking with Dad reminded me that the past wasn't buried and forgotten. Elizabeth and Jack's unexpected visit was a harbinger of more turmoil to come. That night, sleep eluded me as I was haunted by memories of Elizabeth's manipulations, how she always appeared more favorable in our parents' eyes, how she had effortlessly charmed Jack away from me. Her return signaled nothing but trouble, stirring a growing sense of dread within me. Yet, amid the turmoil swirling in my mind, a new resolve began to take root. I wouldn't be a victim again. I was ready to confront Elizabeth and Jack, whatever they were planning. In the days following their visit, their mocking words and smirks replayed in my mind relentlessly. I threw myself into my work, hoping to find a distraction, but the past clung tightly, refusing to be ignored. Remembering my marriage to Jack, which had once seemed filled with love, now felt like navigating a field of thorns. It had started beautifully. Jack was charming, attentive, everything I thought I wanted. We were happy, or so I believed. But then things started to change. His late nights, his excuses, his avoidance of my questions. I had placed my trust in him, brushing aside the doubts and uneasy feelings that occasionally nagged at me. Then, one ordinary day, everything came into stark clarity. I returned home early from a business trip, eager to surprise Jack, but the surprise was on me. I walked into our living room to find Jack and Elizabeth together, laughing comfortably as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It was a moment that fractured my reality. The confrontation that followed was a whirlwind of tears, accusations, and agonizing revelations. Elizabeth was dismissive, her indifference to my anguish clear. "You were always too buried in your work, Linda. Jack needed someone and I was there. It's not our fault he lost interest in you." Jack's words were equally callous. "I thought I loved you, Linda. But Elizabeth, she's different, more thrilling. We were never truly suited for each other." Their betrayal sliced through me, leaving deep scars on my heart and trust. The divorce that ensued was rapid, with Jack and Elizabeth openly parading their newfound relationship, leaving me to pick up the fragments of my shattered life, feeling foolish and deeply wronged. Now, sitting in my office, memories of their duplicity ignited a fierce anger within me. How dare they re-enter my life after their deceit? How dare they disrupt my regained peace? But it wasn't just anger simmering inside me. It was a vehement craving for justice. I yearned for them to experience even a sliver of the agony they had inflicted. Revenge, once a repugnant thought, now seemed like the only avenue to final closure. Resolved, I decided to confront them, to demand explanations. This time, however, I would not stand before them as the heartbroken wife. I would be formidable and resolute. They had underestimated me once. They would not have the chance to do so again. I dialed Jack's number, my voice steady and my determination unwavering. "Jack, we need to talk. Meet me at the cafe on 5th Street tomorrow at noon." His response, a surprised stutter, was a minor yet satisfying triumph. "Sure, Linda, tomorrow," he replied just before the call ended. For the first time in days, I felt a surge of control. The game had indeed begun. This time, I was in it to win. The next day, the cafe was alive with the hum of morning chatter. I spotted Jack at a corner table, his body language tense. The smile he attempted faltered before it could fully form. "Linda, thanks for coming. I wasn't sure you'd want to see me," he admitted, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "I don't," I responded bluntly, sliding into the seat across from him. "But I need answers. Why are you and Elizabeth suddenly back in my life?" Jack shifted uncomfortably, his discomfort palpable. "Things haven't been great for us, Linda. After we left, we faced some tough times." Observing his unease brought a twisted sense of satisfaction. "Tough times? You're seeking sympathy from me?" I challenged, my tone sharp. "No, of course not," he stammered quickly. "It's just that Elizabeth is pregnant. We thought it's time to mend fences, for the sake of family." His words struck a chord and a brief twinge of hurt flashed through me, but skepticism quickly overtook it. "And you expect me to do what? Forgive you just like that?" I asked, my disbelief coloring every word. "It's not just about forgiveness, Linda," Jack said, his eyes darting away from mine. "There's also the matter of your father's estate." So that was it, the real reason behind their sudden reappearance. It wasn't about remorse or seeking reconciliation, it was purely out of greed. "You have some nerve, Jack. You cheat, you leave, and now you come back for money?" My voice rose, echoing slightly in the bustling cafe. "People can change, Linda. We've been through a lot. We just want a chance to start over, to be a family," he pleaded. "A family built on lies and deceit?" I shot back, my heart pounding with righteous anger. Just then, my phone vibrated with a new message. It was Elizabeth. "We need to talk. Alone. My place. Tonight." I glanced at Jack, my decision firm. "Tell Elizabeth I'll see her tonight," I said coolly, standing up to leave. The game was set, and I was ready to face whatever came next. "Jack, this isn't a simple family gathering. It's about settling scores," I declared, seeing the surprise flash across his face as I rose from my seat. A rush of empowerment swept through me. For far too long, I'd played the victim in their games, but now the tides were turning. I left Jack behind in the cafe, my heart pounding with a cocktail of anger, betrayal, and a newfound resolve. As I drove home, my mind was ablaze with strategies for the evening's confrontation with Elizabeth. I was determined to not let her deceit sway me again. By the time evening arrived, I stood in front of my mirror, ready to confront my past. The woman looking back at me was transformed, no longer overshadowed by Jack or Elizabeth's manipulations. Tonight, I was prepared to reclaim my life. Elizabeth's residence starkly contrasted with my own, ostentatious and flamboyant, mirroring her superficial values. When she opened the door, her arrogance was palpable. "Linda, come in. I'm glad you could make it," she said, her voice dripping with patronization as if her invitation was a favor. "Why am I here, Elizabeth? What do you want from me?" I asked, cutting straight to the point as she led me into her lavishly decorated living room. "I wanted to talk sister to sister. It's been too long, and with the baby on the way, I thought it's time we buried the hatchet," Elizabeth proposed, her audacity almost making me laugh. "Bury the hatchet? After you stole my husband and now you're eyeing my father's inheritance?" Elizabeth's face stiffened for a moment before she regained her composure. "Linda, let's be practical. Jack and I need financial stability for our child. Your father's estate can help with that," she explained, her greed thinly veiled. "You expect me to just hand over what's rightfully mine after everything you've done?" I countered. "It's not just about the money, Linda," Elizabeth insisted, feigning sincerity. "We're still sisters after all." Her words stunned me. "You lost the right to call me sister when you betrayed me." A tense silence fell between us, and then Elizabeth's facade momentarily slipped, revealing her true intentions. "Fine, if you're going to be selfish, let's talk legalities. Dads will favor the first grandchild. My baby will secure the inheritance for Jack and me," she stated bluntly. Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. This was her strategy all along, using her pregnancy to manipulate our father's will in her favor. "You're unbelievable, Elizabeth. You think you can manipulate everyone to get what you want. Not this time," I said firmly, ready to challenge her every step of the way. "I won't let you," I said with unwavering firmness. Elizabeth smirked, her eyes sharp and calculating. "We'll see, Linda. Let's see how long you can keep up this act," she taunted with a sneer. As I turned and walked away, my thoughts were racing. Driving home, a plan began to take shape. Elizabeth and Jack were deeply engaged in a perilous game, but I had finally caught on to their tactics. It was high time they understood I was no mere pawn in their convoluted schemes. In the days that followed my clash with Elizabeth, I immersed myself in intense preparations for the impending legal showdown over my father's estate. I sought legal counsel, adamant about defending what was rightfully mine and preserving my father's legacy from Elizabeth and Jack's insatiable greed. As I pored over the legal intricacies, startling news reached me. Jack's business, once a pillar of confidence, had crumbled under financial strain. They were swamped in debt, and their opulent lifestyle was no longer sustainable. This revelation illuminated their desperate return and their frantic scramble for the inheritance. During a meeting with my lawyer, Miss Brenda, we reviewed our strategy. "They are financially and legally cornered," she observed, scrutinizing the documents. "Your sister's claim about the will doesn't stand up legally. We have a strong case to challenge it." Miss Brenda's confidence was reassuring, yet I was aware that Elizabeth and Jack wouldn't back down easily. They were like cornered animals, unpredictable and potentially dangerous. My resolve faced an unexpected test one evening when I returned from work to find Elizabeth waiting at my doorstep, her face a mask of defiance and desperation. "Linda, we need to talk," she said, her voice quivering. "I have nothing to discuss with you, Elizabeth. This matter is now with the lawyers," I responded, attempting to bypass her. She stepped forward, blocking my way. "Please, Linda, listen. I'm not pregnant. It was all a lie. A scheme Jack and I concocted to manipulate Dad's will," she confessed. Though her revelation did not take me by surprise, it was just another layer of deceit in their extensive playbook. "So you've been lying all this time? What now, Elizabeth? Ready to concede?" I asked coldly as tears began to fill Elizabeth's eyes, revealing the depth of her turmoil. Despite everything, her plea for help didn't sway me. "I don't know what to do, Linda. Jack's business is ruined. We're losing everything. I need your help," Elizabeth said, her voice desperate. The irony of her asking for my assistance after all the betrayal was almost comical. "You want my help after everything you've done? You're delusional," I retorted, stepping back from her. The sister I once knew was long gone, replaced by a stranger the moment she chose betrayal over blood. "Live with your choices, Elizabeth," I said firmly, leaving her standing alone as I went inside my house and shut the door on her and our shared past. It felt incredibly freeing to close the door on our toxic relationship. That night, as I sat in the silence of my living room, I understood that this struggle was about more than just an inheritance. It was about my liberation. It marked the end of Elizabeth and Jack's deceit and the beginning of a new chapter in my life. The following weeks were consumed by a flurry of legal proceedings. Elizabeth and Jack's desperation escalated as their financial woes deepened. Yet, with Miss Brenda's guidance and my newfound determination, I remained unshaken. The day of the court hearing was tense, the cold courtroom air contrasting sharply with the heat of simmering emotions. Jack and Elizabeth sat together, a facade of unity barely masking their true turmoil. As the hearing unfolded, Miss Brenda expertly countered each of their claims. Elizabeth's lie about her pregnancy came to light, further eroding their case. Watching Elizabeth, I saw the toll of her actions reflected in her face. The confident, manipulative sister I once knew had vanished, overwhelmed by the weight of her misdeeds. During a recess, Elizabeth approached me, desperation coloring her plea. "Linda, please, I know I don't deserve your mercy, but we're ruined. We have nothing," she implored. Her once persuasive words now fell flat. "You brought this on yourselves, Elizabeth. You chose greed and deceit, and now you must face the consequences," I responded calmly. The judge's final verdict was a clear victory for me, affirming that the inheritance would rightfully remain mine. Elizabeth and Jack left the courtroom defeated, their schemes dismantled. As I walked out, a profound sense of closure enveloped me. This was not merely a legal win, it was a personal triumph over the ghosts of my past. Elizabeth and Jack's downfall served as the justice they deserved, but for me it signaled a new beginning, free from the anguish they had caused. In the days that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life, stepping out of the shadows cast by Elizabeth and Jack. The scars they left would always be a part of me, but they no longer defined me. I had grown stronger, more resilient, and gained a deeper understanding of myself and my values. One evening, as I sat in my garden watching the sun dip below the horizon, a profound realization washed over me. True victory doesn't come from seeking revenge or delighting in the misfortunes of those who have harmed us. Instead, it's found in the tranquility and resilience that blossom within us, the ability to let go of the past and step into fresh starts with open arms.